This is New Zealand, located far south in the Pacific Ocean, about 4,000 kilometers away from Australia, the world's second most peaceful country. Most people in India and Pakistan, like me, know New Zealand primarily because of cricket. Names like Brendon McCullum, Ross Taylor, and Daniel Vettori are why I knew about New Zealand in the first place. But New Zealand is famous worldwide for much more. Its massive mountain ranges, stunning landscapes, and high-quality organic food. Some of you might already know that the famous movie Lord of the Rings was also filmed in these beautiful valleys of New Zealand. The weather here is quite similar to the UK, short summers, long winters, and plenty of rain. Despite this, New Zealand's population is less than 7% of the UK's. If you look at New Zealand's map, you'll notice that nearly 80% of the country is completely empty, with no one living there. About 70% of New Zealand's population lives in the northern region, and half of that population resides in just one city, Auckland. With such incredible weather, breathtaking scenery, low crime rates, and a high standard of living, why is 80% of New Zealand still empty? Let's find out the answer to this question today. Why is New Zealand so empty? The truth is, if we look at the world map first, you'll notice that New Zealand is very far from the rest of the world. If you board a flight from Karachi or Mumbai, you'd have to cross the entire Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean, taking about 18 to 22 hours to reach New Zealand. Now the question arises, how did humans reach this remote island so far away? There are multiple theories. According to New Zealand's official website, around 1,000 years ago, between 1320 and 1350, the Maori people discovered New Zealand. The Maori were Polynesian settlers who left their surrounding islands in large canoes and arrived in New Zealand. This was around the same time when Genghis Khan and the Mongols were expanding their empire across Asia. But why did they leave their old islands and come to New Zealand? Research reveals that according to some Maori historical records, New Zealand was actually discovered much earlier, around 750 AD, by a Maori fisherman named Kupe. Kupe was a fisherman who noticed that whenever he cast his net, his fish would disappear, taken by a giant octopus. Since fish was their primary food source, this became a major problem. So Kupe and a few companions set out into the Pacific Ocean to find a new island with better resources. After days of sailing, they spotted a large, mountainous island, New Zealand. It was rich in seafood, goats, and fruits, but completely uninhabited. Kupe sent some of his men back to Polynesia to bring more people, and that's how the Maori began settling in New Zealand. European arrival and conflict. By the 17th century, the Maori were living peacefully in New Zealand, isolated from the rest of the world. But this was about to change. This was the era when Western nations were sending explorers to discover new lands for colonization. In 1642, Dutch explorer Abel Tasman arrived in the South Pacific searching for a new continent. When he tried to land in New Zealand, violent clashes broke out with the Maori, forcing him to leave. Then, in 1769, British officer James Cook arrived, mapping New Zealand in detail. This time, Europeans began arriving in larger numbers, using trade as a way to establish control. By 1840, the British had fully taken over New Zealand after signing the Treaty of Waitangi with the Maori chiefs. At that time, the Maori population was around 200,000, but over the next century, it dropped to just 40,000 due to wars and diseases brought by Europeans. Why is New Zealand's south so empty? Now, back to our original question, why is so much of New Zealand uninhabited? The southern part of New Zealand is extremely mountainous, with rugged terrain making infrastructure development nearly impossible. The land is also rocky and infertile, making agriculture difficult. That's why most of New Zealand's population lives in the northern region, with half concentrated in Auckland. To address housing shortages, the New Zealand government now offers grants of up to $8,000 for people willing to move 100 kilometers away from Auckland. New Zealand's economy, meat and agriculture. Interestingly, New Zealand's entire agriculture industry runs on meat exports. The northern region's lush green pastures support millions of sheep and cattle. New Zealand's population is around 5 million, but its sheep population is nearly 30 million. This makes New Zealand the world's largest exporter of mutton and wool. In 2019, meat exports alone earned New Zealand $46 billion. Despite being the 50th largest economy in the world, New Zealand thrives on agriculture, a lesson for countries like India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, which are also agriculture-based. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Docutainment.